Let's bring in Marianne Marsh. She's a former senior advisor to Secretary of State Kerry, and Colin Reed is senior vice president of Definers Public Affairs. Both of them Massachusetts natives. I don't know how this keeps happening, but I'm glad that you stuck with me. Let me start with you, Colin. So you watched the press briefing with me. There's a lot of questions on a range of issues, but Stormy Daniels comes up again. And Amy Walter had a tweet yesterday, and she's from the Charlie Cook's shop, and she wrote, "One reason why media gets low ratings, nonstop coverage of Stormy Daniels. Little to none on top issue for Americans, health care, prescription drug costs, and access. Which one do you think matters more to their day-to-day lives?" I mean, I don't blame the media for covering a story, any story, but will this have any ramifications on voters' minds?
Well, Dana, look, there's a reason that President Trump and his allies target the media so frequently. It's because they're not generally popular amongst the American public. I have lots of friends who are reporters. I like them, but most everyday people do not, and there's a wide variety of reasons for that. But I think to the point you were raising about whether or not this is going to resonate, there was a poll this morning that showed amidst all the Stormy coverage, somehow the president's approval numbers have ticked upwards. So I think that speaks to where people are concerned and what they are really focused on, which is the economic issues, and people are generally feeling a lot better about the tax cuts as well as the economy as a whole.
Right, and Marianne, I wanted to ask you about this because you and I don't know, well, Colin might be old enough, but we remember the 90s well. And I just asked them to pull up for me the approval rating for Bill Clinton before and after his, you know, the whole Lewinsky issue. I don't like to call it the Lewinsky scandal anymore. I think she's got a good point on that. In 1997, Bill Clinton's approval rating was 58%. After impeachment, it's back up at 69%. Could it be that President Trump might actually benefit in the long run from all of this kind of coverage like Bill Clinton did?
Well, historically, when people feel that whether it's Bill Clinton or anybody else is being unfairly maligned, they circle the wagons and support him. The numbers go up. I think there's a big difference here, though. The difference is it's not the salacious part of the Stormy Daniels story that matters. It's the questions around Donald Trump's reaction to it. It was the fact that we knew much about his personal life going into the election. Yet 11 days before the election, he's trying to silence her with a $130,000 payment. Why would you do that? $130,000 isn't nothing. And so you have to ask yourself, does someone have leverage over him? Is he compromised? Are there other people who might have leverage over him as well? Those are the questions that really matter and worth taking a look at.
Does it remind you a little bit, Marianne, of the coverage about the John Edwards affair?
There are certainly similarities there where you go with John Edwards. It ended up being an FEC violation. I think we're certainly looking at something pretty close to that, if not that, with Donald Trump. But that opens Pandora's box. And that's why the Mueller investigation will look at this as well. How was campaign finance funds used by the Trump campaign and their associates? What were they used for? How were they? And were there other parties involved, whether it's in the Stormy Daniels affair or other issues that the Mueller investigation is looking at? It all comes down to the fact that is Donald Trump making decisions in the best interest of Donald Trump or the country? That's what matters.
Well, I have you. I want to ask you about one other issue, and that is this whole issue about the census. Both the Attorney General from California and Sarah Sanders addressing it within the last 30 minutes or so. Take a listen to two quotes from them.
This is a question that's been included in every census since 1965, with the exception of 2010 when it was removed. We've contained this question that's provided data that's necessary for the Department of Justice to protect voters and specifically to help us better comply with the Voting Rights Act, which is something that is important and a part of this process. And again, this is something that has been part of the census for decades.
It seems that the Trump administration made a decision and announced it would add this question about citizenship to the 2020 census. Given the way that this administration has attacked immigrants, you can understand why immigrant families would be afraid to fill out the census questionnaire.
All right, Colin, Congress still has to take a whack at this, and then it's going to obviously go to court, and so we don't know what's going to happen. Meantime, what do you think the politics will be on the left when it comes to this?
Well, I think a lot of this issue on where you stand on it is going to be based on where you sit. And if you're a member of the Democratic Party who is vehemently opposed to everything President Trump and his administration stands for, you're going to be against it. And it could quite quickly become a litmus test, like other issues we've seen percolating on the left, that you must be for or against in order to have a chance to run for higher office. And I think you'll see a lot of these 2020 wannabes in the Senate and elsewhere take a strong stand on this issue against the president.
Marianne, I have 40 seconds left total in the show. The last word.
Well, look, the fact that they're invoking the Voting Rights Act is laughable when Donald Trump's done nothing to punish Russia for the 2016 election, done nothing to prepare this country for the 2018 election, let alone paper ballots. So when you look at the Trump administration and their record on voting rights, you cannot use this and have a straight face and claim that this is the reason why you're adding this question.
And you don't think the sanctions have been enough so far for punishment?
Correct. No, because they weren't for the voting rights. It was for the gassing of the spies.